And a very warm welcome to you. So, reaching the highest level ever, I'm told, in the second quarter. Before we get to why, what does commercial aviation activity actually encompass?
Basically, thank you, Jeremy. What we look at is about 28 indicators, and we divide them into 8 groups. And we look specifically at air traffic movements at AXA airports and then also non-AXA airports. We also look in terms of imports and exports of aircraft spares and other aircraft commodities. So those are the main factors we take into account.
Would you be looking at the big jetliners, so the SAAs and the Mangos and the Comairs, or is this specifically located centered on smaller type of aircraft?
No, this is basically for the whole of the aviation industry. So we look at air traffic movements at our Tamba and all of the AXA airports. We also look at the smaller entities involved in the industry. So it's a holistic picture of the whole of the industry.
So why is this happening?
Basically, the main factor that had an influence on the index was the export of aircraft. We exported 47 aircraft during the second quarter, with an average value of 17 million per aircraft. So that's already, we're looking at more than 800 million rands, just in terms of the export of aircraft.
Stop right there. I was not aware that we had a strong or aircraft manufacturing industry in this country.
No, it's not.
Is it not making aeroplanes? What is it?
It's not making the aeroplanes and selling them. We also import quite a lot of aircraft. I think we imported in the vicinity of 20 aircraft during the same.
What are we exporting then?
We're exporting different types of aircraft. It ranges from King Airs to Globals, typically the business type aircraft that are mainly exported overseas, and mainly to African countries, mainly also SADC countries that we export these aircraft to.
So you say that to continue growing, and I quote, we need to put the right conditions in place to promote sustained growth. What needs to change in order to further develop this industry?
Before I get to that specific part, although in terms of exports we've done quite excellent, in terms of air traffic movement at our AXA airports, our Tamba, there's actually been a downward trend, mainly because of the visa restrictions on visas, that apparently now, through a statement by the President, is kind of taken out of the picture. Although we're not there yet in terms of the air traffic movement, if that's also in place, you'll see the index will rise even further, and the aviation activity in the country will rise even further. So it's also important to take cognizance of that. If the country runs a stable policy framework, it's easier for the operators to operate in the country. If the regulations are not as strict as they are currently, it also provides a kind of environment for business to thrive. I don't know if that
answers the question perfectly. So we've dealt with the visa issue as far as that's concerned. The five largest non-AXA airports grew strongly during the second quarter, in direct contrast to the issue of 5 of the 9 that didn't grow as well. So the non-AXA airports, what's happening there?
Okay, Jeremy, you need to take note that in terms of airliners, we've only got about 240 airliners in the country, but we've got more than 6,000 business-type aircraft in the country, 6,000 versus 240, and we've also got about 6,500 type of recreational, non-certified aircraft. That's also busy operating in the country and causing economic activity. At the
and these would operate out of places like Lanseria, for instance?
Lanseria, Grand Central, and all of these non-AXA type airports, they will take, for instance, foreigners on safaris to dirt road runways.
Yes.
They will actually take VIPs all the way to Nigeria and back, and all kinds of other charter business taking place in the country, and, of course, in the continent.
So you make the point that the health of commercial aviation is a valuable but often overlooked indicator in this country. Given the numbers that you've just shown me as far as the number of aircraft are concerned, that is very, very self-evident. What then, and back to my original question, what needs to change in order to promote more healthy sustainability in this sector?
I think if you look at the whole of the African continent, in South Africa, we've got quite an extensive road network. But if you look at the rest of the continent, there is issues surrounding tar roads. Sometimes to travel 200 kilometers takes 2 days. And that's where the value of specifically aviation is sometimes underestimated. If you just look in terms of South Africa, aviation is providing jobs for about 470,000 people. We are only 3.2% of the GDP, but I mean it's still 130 billion rands.
What type of jobs? That's a fairly impressive figure, isn't it?
Okay, can I ask you a question? How many people...
It's my job, to ask you the questions, but it's fine. You're feeling quite comfortable here.
I think important, and I think it's also for the viewers important to take note of this fact. How many people do you think is required to operate an aircraft?
Are we talking about a big
like airliner-size aircraft?
So we're talking about a Mango 737?
Yes.
I don't know the answer, but I'm very good at guessing. I'm going to say maybe we're talking about maintenance staff, we're talking about apron staff, all of that sort of thing. I'm going to say maybe, let's say 100 people.
Actually not. It's only about 19 people, 19.
Yeah.
Well, if you're the SAA, they use 90 people to do the job, and that's probably why they are not making a profit. But that's
zing. Okay, that hurt. Okay.
But yes, it takes 19 people because it's not just the pilot, and it's not just the air crew, and it's not just the co-pilot. People need to clean that aircraft. You need people on the apron. You need people to do the tickets, to do the websites, to do the finance.
I would have thought it'd be more than that. Yeah.
No, it's actually the average on those are about 19 to be profitable.
Yeah.
Of course.
But often there's
more.
More than
especially state-owned.
Yeah. All right.
Kind of.
All right. So this is a good industry at the moment if you get the right support mechanisms in place.
Yeah, we're still in South Africa, kind of the hub for aviation in Africa. It's growing in West Africa, East Africa, but we still remaining the hub. The work is moving to Africa, and we're selling a lot of more aircraft into Africa, and we are still the sole distributor of various types of foreign aircraft into Africa. So it's a vibrant industry in South Africa.
So what did you say, 3.2% of the national GDP, around 470,000 jobs in South Africa. Also, as you say, it's an often overlooked indicator. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, shining a light on an industry that we haven't seen before.